And thank you all for coming. Wow.
Oh, wow.
People have showed up since the last time I looked up. It's wonderful to see everyone. So welcome. So this is my first time doing introduction, and I'm really glad to be back. I haven't seen a bunch of you in months. So here's something to start off with as a welcome and a reminder about the center of love. St. Augustine, way back in the 12th century, maybe, said, God is a circle whose center is everywhere and circumference is nowhere. That's something to think about. That is where we are, right? The center of love. Think of this circle or this sphere, but the center of love is a community where members support one another, share ideas, insights, and wisdom, and inspire each other to grow in love. Our mission is to support each other on our quest for knowledge of self, healing, and love. For we believe that when we know ourselves, we become wise. When we heal ourselves, we become whole. When we love ourselves, we become one with all. Now, I just want to quickly tap into the theme that Lesia, our speaker, will be getting into later, and that is release and what that manifests as in terms of change and wiping the slate clean. The Unity minister and author Paul Hesselbeck came up with this idea a little while ago, sort of similar to what Tracy was talking about a few weeks ago on this idea of levels of consciousness. And it's sort of easy to remember. It's 4 V's. It's victim, victor, vessel, and then verity or truth. So the first 2 is where all the drama is. It's like the ego, the fear, the shame, the hurt. That's where we spend a lot of time. I know I have. And letting go of that and moving into the next level of vessel consciousness, we get into what St. Francis, the prayer, St. Francis prayer, make me an instrument of thy peace. That's that level of what can I be for everyone? What can I be to be the best, to see the best in all? That's the be at peace and release level. And then we have the boss level, as I like to call it, of truth or verity or actuality. And that's where we get into the idea of the tougher decision we have to make that we are, God is us, which is a strange realization, but it's also comforting in its own way. So here's a quote from Paul Hasselbeck's book, The 12 Powers, Power Up Your Life, which is about the different 12 powers in unity. He quotes Eric Butterworth as saying, he says, if you insist on holding on to things like an anthropomorphic God or the need to nurture past hurts and disagreements, you will look outside yourself for answers instead of within. He continues in the strongest possible terms, truth is at the center of you. It is the mystical point where God becomes you. You are the activity of God expressing and pressing out into visibility as you. And then a little later in the book, he quotes two people, Annie Besant, who says, humankind must know the reality of the divine existence and then know, not only vaguely believe and hope, but know that his or her own innermost self is one with God, and that the aim of life is to realize that unity And then finally, he quotes the Sufi mystic Ibn Arabi, who says, when the mystery of the oneness of the soul and the divine is revealed in you, you will understand that you are not other than God. For when you know yourself, your sense of a limited identity vanishes, and you know that you and God are one and the same. So that's the journey, that's the exploration that I trust we're all on to some degree, based on what I know of all of you. It's wonderful to be in your presence. And there's children here, which is even more wonderful. So who are we listening to today? We have a speaker coming up. Someone's pointing to Candace, but that's another time. We're going straight into it.
Yeah, absolutely. You introduced the
Okay, so Lesia is I'll read from her bio on her book, which just came out in November. Lesia is a speaker, podcaster, activist, and coach. She holds a bachelor's degree in advanced consciousness studies and is a licensed spiritual practitioner and integrative nutrition health coach. She is also a wonderful mother, and I think daughter, and also she's my wife. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm very glad that we have that connection. And as I was driving in the car with her yesterday on the way home, I had this like kick in the eye moment of it. I realized, and I said to her, I really like the feeling of going home with you, because it just hit me. And I thought, yeah, thank you. So we're going to hear a little bit about release and wiping the slate, and who knows what else, because Lesia works on the fly. And yeah, we don't know what's coming up. So I introduce to you Lesia Kohut. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahoney, also known as Glenn Sheridan, my husband, the Lomo. So yeah, you know, I heard the word release a couple of times, and I thought, I don't know if I'm going to be talking about release. The first thing I would like to say is, and wow, yeah, looking out, this is a totally full house here today. Like, what do we have? About 30 people or something? And then we have all the people online. This is amazing. Just so grateful and so delighted to be in company with everyone, because it's been since the end of October since Glenn and I were here, due to various things and happenings unfolding in our life. And so it's just, I'm so grateful to be here right now. So my talk is a little different than what it was going to be when I first gave Ollie the title about a week ago, and when I started marinating on what I wanted to talk about a couple of weeks ago, when we decided that today was going to be our makeup day. And so I guess the reasons that that it's different, not only because Glenn just mentioned that I like to speak on the fly, and in ministerial class right now, every single week, we are tasked with doing a 3 to 5 minute talk on whatever the topic is of the day. And Dr. James Mellon, who is our teacher and mentor, wants us to do it with only 3 bullet points, and that's it. He doesn't want us writing our talk beforehand. He doesn't want us to plan anything. He wants us to have an idea of what we're going to do, but then just go with what is happening in the moment. So it's very organic and spontaneous, and just whatever wants to come up can come up. So what is coming up for me today has to do more with two things than it does release and resolve and resolution and white stone ceremonies and tabula rasa, which is what I was originally going to talk about. It has to do with a book that I have been reading called The Midnight Library. Is anyone here familiar with that book? Okay. And the second is with a concussion that I am still kind of in the midst of experiencing, having smashed the liftgate of our car on my face about 3 weeks ago, accidentally. And so the experience that I have had over the last few weeks has been one of, as far as the concussion goes, of frustration and sort of annoyance and challenge, as there have been gaps in my memory and words that haven't come to mind as easily, and not being able to speak on the fly as readily as I normally can and love to do. So the reason that this talk changed, or sort of the opportunity that came up, was yesterday, as I was about to go into the shower. And I was starting to really think about, oh my gosh, I really need to know what my 3 bullet points are. I really need to know what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. And then it just hit me, sort of, Glenn just mentioned a kick in the eye moment. This was another like kick in the eye moment, in addition to the actual like slam in the eye moment when the car door smashed my face, which was, I don't really need to keep struggling in these pauses and gaps of these, where are the words that I want? Why can't I remember what it is that I'm trying to access? Every single one of these pauses is an amazing opportunity to just open up to what's possible, is to just be present to what's available, is to not try and struggle and will and force, which is what we can often find ourselves doing when we are like super determined to reach a goal or to reach some sort of intention that we have set, which is part of what happens at the beginning of the year, right? I mean, January 1st comes along, people start making their resolutions, they start setting their goals and intentions. And you kind of go along and you get to a certain point where you're in the flow and things are going well. But then at some point, for a lot of people, they realize, oh, wait a minute, it's been a few weeks, it's been a few months, and I sort of lost the plot somewhere. So for me, yesterday, as I was walking into the shower, and then as I was in the shower and I was washing my hair, and I went to wash my hair again, I'm like, did I wash my hair twice already? I don't know. I'll just wash it a third time if that's the case. That it's okay. It's okay to not have everything at our fingertips. It's okay to not know exactly what it is that the next step is going to be that we're going to take. It's okay for me right now to feel emotional being here because of what's going on. But I also know that, or because I also know that I am greater than whatever I'm experiencing, that I am greater than whatever forgetfulness or gaps I might be going through. I'm greater than even this concussion that has happened. And that just like every single opportunity or every single moment in life, even this concussion and the experiences that I'm experiencing from it are an opportunity that can be turned into a gift and healing, growth and expansion and exploration. Now, The Midnight Library is this amazing book that was referred or recommended to me by a client of mine. And I've been listening to it on Audible and audiobook. And I'm so thankful for audiobooks. I love listening to stories. I love listening to books. And I'm grateful that this book was available on audiobook, so I didn't have to sit and read, because reading has been a challenge because so much focus is involved. And so anyway, so The Midnight Library is the book that I was going to present to my ministerial class on Thursday during class for my talk. And so it didn't come up as the topic until the day before, because I had 2 books set aside, one actually a word from Ollie, that I just couldn't read because I couldn't focus, I couldn't concentrate. So then I was going between, well, it could be The Midnight Library, or it could be my book, because my book fits the bill. But then I thought, eventually, you know what, I'm going to have plenty of opportunity to teach from my book. I really want to do something else. So the reason that I chose The Midnight Library is because it is a book with the main character named Nora Seed, who is a 35-year-old woman who lives in Bedford, England. And she has gotten to the point in her life where she is pretty much disappointed in everything and has a list of regrets that is like this long. And so she has just gotten fired from her job at a store called String Theory, which is a music store, where she doesn't mind talking to people, but really would rather sort of, be left alone. She continuously second guesses herself on choices that she's made throughout her life. Major choices like breaking off her engagement with Dan because she didn't want to pursue the dream that he had of opening a pub, of leaving the Labyrinths, which was a band that she played in with her brother and really close friend. And they were just about to sign a really big deal with a music label when she decided she was actually going to go get married, but then she didn't, and totally disappointed her brother and friend. And as a result, this big rift happened with her brother, and she hadn't seen him for a few years. She also second guesses the choices that she made about not following through with her philosophy degree, which she just loved. And she quotes various philosophers throughout the book because they're just like a part of her soul. She also regrets and second guesses herself on not going to Australia with her friend Izzy, which caused a rift between the two of them. And so as she's thinking about all of these things and people she's disappointed and opportunities she's let go, and the fact she just got fired from this humdrum job, which she didn't really like anyway, and then comes home to discover that her cat has been found dead, her cat Voltaire has been found dead in the street, she comes to the conclusion that she would be better off dead, that everyone in her life would be better off without her, and that she would be better off not alive. And so she commits suicide, and at the moment she commits suicide, finds herself kind of in oblivion, if you will, and ends up coming upon this place called the Midnight Library. And the Midnight Library is a place with infinite shelves of infinite books that all have the same title, My Life. Different thicknesses, different shapes, different sizes, all different shades of green, but all my life. And what she comes to discover through the librarian, Mrs. Elm, who used to be the librarian at her high school, is that every single one of these books is a life she could have lived had she made a different choice somewhere along the way. And so she starts to look through these books. First of all, she's in disbelief and is wondering, what the heck? There's no way. Am I dead? What's going on? Like, where is everybody else who's dead? But slowly, at the encouragement of Mrs. Elm, she starts choosing. And she gives Mrs. Elm the instructions or parameters of what she wants to choose. And the first few books she chooses are sort of very close to home, like, what would have happened if I had married Dan? What would have happened if I had gone to Australia? What would have happened if I had done things where my cat didn't die? But there comes the point where she chooses a book where this big aha moment happens, one of several aha moments throughout the book, where she begins to realize that her choices, she's the one making them. No one else is making those choices for her. And even though her choices might impact the other people in her life, ultimately, they impact her the most. And so that there are choices that she's making, and the choices, even though they're connected to outcome, the outcome isn't always what she thought it might be. So she realizes that she is super powerful in the choices that she's making, that she's always choosing, that choices aren't necessarily connected to the outcome that we think is going to happen, because we're only thinking in terms of what we know up until now, rather than all the infinite possibilities available to us. And then there is a third thing, like opening up to what that third thing is right now. It might come around. But to bring it back to, the pause that I experienced yesterday, and the idea I don't have to try and remember and know exactly what that moment where this gap sort of happens of what's supposed to be in there. I can just let go and I can open up to those infinite possibilities of these infinite lives that I could potentially live. And who knows, I might make a different choice that leads me in a totally different direction that is so much better and more interesting and fascinating than the choice I would have made had I been, of clearer mind, which may have been then based on stuff that I had known and understood and experienced up until now into this moment. So that's kind of the point that I want to make, is that every moment we have this slate that we are handed, or we have this slate that we are carrying. And every moment we are choosing whether we are wiping the slate clean or whether we are using this slate sort of as an instruction manual based on everything that we have experienced up until now. And if what we have experienced up until now is life affirming and positive and expansive and great and is propelling you into living the most engaging, fulfilling, amazing, wonderful, creative, imaginative, prosperous, abundant life that you can live, awesome. If, however, it is something that is keeping you feeling stuck, something that is keeping you in pain, something that is keeping you feeling like you're struggling or like you're confused or unclear or like, I know there's more to life, but I just don't know exactly what it is, then I'm inviting you to consider wiping that slate clean and just opening up to those infinite possibilities of Nora Seed's Midnight Library, the infinite possibilities that are the infinite potentiality of the quantum field that knows no time, no space, the quantum field that is the infinite possibilities in this moment, right here, right now. So I still don't remember what the third thing was, but that's okay. It doesn't matter right now. So it's just, for me, really, it's about, not so much release as it is about, rather than willing and forcing, to just lighten up and let go, rather than, trying to remember, because remembering is based on like what has happened and what we've understood up until this moment, to open up to what's possible. Because when we open up to what's possible, then we, as Glenn was just talking about, instead of staying in victim or victor, or even like as the vessel, we open ourselves up to the verity, to the truth of who we are, to the love, the center of love that each and every one of us here is, individually, collectively, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, supramentally, mentally, all of it. That's who and what we are. And it is our job to open up to that infinitude. So the last few things that I just want to point out is the One Step song that we opened up with today, which is by Amy Steinberg, who is an amazing New Thought musician. And I happen to be in class with her in ministerial class, and we have become really good friends over the last few months. When she writes, make a mental path, one step, repeat, I surrender to the presence of the God in me. Wipe the slate clean whenever you can. And it's not to dismiss anything that's working, but it is to open yourself up to what's possible, to the infinite potentiality of your soul, your true creativity, imagination, and resilience that is infinite, that is boundless, that is always ongoing and unfolding and emerging. And then as you do that, follow your intuition and the passion that you got. Be pulled by your vision rather than your thoughts, and choose a different way. Say Yahoo, yes, to your highest and your best. What you desire, you can straight up manifest. So my question for you is that with every single moment being a brand new moment of infinite possibilities, with this slate that you are carrying along with you, what are you going to choose to do? Are you going to choose to use the information that you have on there, or are you going to choose to wipe it clean and open up to the infinite possibilities that you could possibly become? Namaste.
a lot of energy has been shifting today, I feel. What's going on? And if you wish to part of that shift in a more particular way, that would be things like sharing some of your infinite supply of talents and treasures. We do have a basket for monetary donations, which is a form of energy, of course. As Oliver says, what is given is received. I quoted him, he actually said that, so.
Well, I was quoting a book, so you're actually quoting me quoting someone.
So I just wanted to finish up with this, two things. The book that was mentioned earlier, which this looks like it's backwards.
Yeah.
Soul Excavation, an exploration and discovery of self through fear, failure, and quantum physics. So this is the book available on Amazon, and Lesia has a couple of copies, 2 or 3 with us, I think.
Always in the car.
And I just, I think a lot of what was discussed in our group anyway, would be definitely relevant and worthwhile reading from Lesia's perspective. It's a very good read. I know because I helped edit it. So this is just the last part. The book I mentioned earlier, which is Paul Hasselbeck's Power Up Your Life, which is an explanation of 12 different aspects of who we are as human/divine beings, such as release, wisdom, strength, will, and one of them is, of course, love. So what I want to do is, over the last couple of years, you've heard the word expert till you want to throw up, probably. These are the real experts you want to listen to on, in this case, subject of love. This was a group of questions asked on a questionnaire for experts who are 10 years and younger, 10 years old and younger. So I'll just read some of the questions and the answers, and we can fade out into our beautiful lives for the rest of the week. So on the question, what do people do on a first date? Mike, who's 9, answered, on the first date, they just tell each other lies, and that usually gets them interested in the second date. Okay. When is it okay to kiss someone? Randy, who's 8, says, you've got to be a good kisser. It might make your wife forget that you never take out the trash. And Randy and the next speaker, Lynette, who's 9, this is almost 10 years old, this book, so they may have been canceled by now with their views. On the question, is it better to be single or married? Lynette says, it's better for girls to be single, but not for boys. Boys need someone to clean up after them and pick up their socks.
Wow.
The question, which Dave, who's 8, answers, why do lovers hold hands? He says, they want to make sure their rings don't fall off because they pay good money for them. And then finally on the question, how can you tell if 2 adults eating dinner at a restaurant are in love? Brad, who's 8, says, they just stare at each other and their food gets cold. Christine, who's 6, maybe a little wiser, says, if it's love, if they order one of those desserts that are on fire. They like to order those because it's how they're both feeling. Okay, so
Nice.
listen to the experts. So thank you, everyone.
Okay.
And we're going to have the final song.
Yes, indeed.